Our lives are filled with choices. Some can feel trivial, some can feel obvious, but others can feel absolutely impossible. What do you do with those choices? How do you have faith through impossible choices? In the late 90s, there was a show called Early Edition. Simply put, it was about a man named Gary Hobson who all of a sudden started receiving tomorrow's newspaper today. It was a gift, maybe, a responsibility, definitely, and one that sometimes he didn't always know how to handle. Sometimes he didn't know how to handle it. Sometimes he didn't know how to handle it correctly. But nevertheless, having that paper put more choices in his lap than ever before. And some indeed did feel impossible. In episode 2, Gary saw an article about a little girl that was going to get run over by a car because of a traffic jam that was absolutely insane. He thought that his choice was made for him. He was going to save the girl. That was it. Later, when he was talking to his friends about his decision and how he was going to pull it off, something changed. And suddenly, the stakes went way higher. Suddenly, the choice that he had between life and death was multiplied by the 100th. The article talked about a plane crash. Both incidences were supposed to happen within an hour of each other, maybe less. Gary had a decision to make, and it scared him to death. He wasn't a religious person. He didn't even understand why he was been given this responsibility in the first place. He knew what he probably shouldn't do with it, but in a choice like this, he didn't know how to handle it. But he made the decision that he was going to save the girl, and he tried to send his friends to go take care of the plane. So, Gary found the girl, and he took her to the hospital, and he got her to where he thought she needed to be in order to save her life. And then he was like, okay, now I'm going to go take care of the plane crash. He didn't know how he was going to do it. It felt impossible. It felt like the biggest weight put on his shoulders. And one by one, the doors that he could have possibly had to prevent it shut. His friends couldn't get to the airport in time. And the responsibility of this child gnawed on him. The article changed again, and this time it said that the girl died because of hospital neglect. So, yet again, he was stuck with this decision. What does he do? Well, he decided to stick with the little girl, even when his friends told him that they couldn't do anything about the plane. And it weighed on him more than I think a lot of us could possibly imagine. he weighed his decision very carefully, but his resolve was made up. He was going to save the girl. So, he went back into the hospital. He found that they had put her in the hallway because the traffic jam had filled the hospital to past its max capacity. And so, when they thought that, oh, it was just the little girl's arm, suddenly she wasn't really a top priority anymore. So, Gary found her, and he took her. And he went so far as to go into the surgical room and tell the doctor, you need to look at this girl. You need to look at her. Not at the chart. At her. Well, as it turned out, he was right. There was more wrong with the girl. And that decision saved her life. But Gary's heart was still heavy. He didn't know what to do because even though, yeah, he had saved the little girl, he still felt like he failed because there was nothing he could do about the plane. All of those doors seemed to be shut. And he asked, I'm sure, internally, he asked why. If he was to remain so powerless to do anything, why was the responsibility put in his hands in the first place? He probably started to doubt if the paper was really there to be a help or a hindrance. I mean, after all, if tomorrow's newspaper couldn't help him to save hundreds of lives, what was the point? Sometimes the choices that we make can feel the same. Sure, the stakes might not be as much as, one life versus hundreds, but there are times when it can feel so insurmountable. And when we think we're making the right choice, the doors to make those choices shut on us. And we ask, we're like, why? Why is this happening? All we're trying to do is the right thing. Why can't we do it? And we think that all of this responsibility is put on ourselves. And we wonder, how? How could we have been charged with this? See, the thing is that even us believers, there's a lie that has been told. It was based on a truth, but it was misconstrued. And a lot of people still believe it. And that lie is that God will not put more on us than we can handle. The Bible verse states that He will give us a way out of sin. We will not be weighed down with a sin with no escape. But trials? No, we're not promised that trials won't happen. Exactly the opposite. We're actually told and promised that trials will happen. Tribulations will happen. And sometimes they're going to feel impossible. But there's a reason. When Gary was just thinking upon his own power, he felt helpless. And all the way up until, even into the end of the episode, when the girl is saved and she's recuperating, and then her parents come, and they're in a rush. Up to this point, the hospital wasn't able to find them. They're in a rush to be by their daughter's side, and Gary notices something. The dad was carrying a captain's hat, a pilot's hat. The doors that needed to be opened were opened. The choice that Gary made, they did fall into place. Because as it turned out, the girl's father was the pilot of that plane that was supposed to go down. So, by saving his daughter's life, he managed to do both. But Gary couldn't do both. He understood that part, but I think even up at that point, he still didn't quite understand why. Why was all of that responsibility being put on him if there was really nothing he could do about the one? Well, the reason is because Gary needed to learn that it's not always under his power. Sometimes he's helpless. Sometimes we're helpless. Doors shut on us. And again, we ask why. We scream out to God or whatever we may believe in, and we're asked, why? Why are you doing this? If this is what we're supposed to do, why are you not opening the right doors? And we find ourselves doing that and missing the point. The still small whisper that says, trust. Trust. Trust in something bigger than yourself. Because you can't do it all. No one can. Whether you have tomorrow's newspaper or not, no one can do it all. It's impossible. For human hands. Gary needed to learn that. And that's why he was faced with not one, but two of the most impossible choices I feel like he had ever faced. Part 2, and we're going to talk about that one. Episode 2 of Early Edition was called Choice. Episode 21 of Season 1 was called Faith. How do we have faith when the decision, when the choice feels insurmountable, feels impossible? Because that's when we need it the most. Whether you necessarily believe or not, one of these days, maybe even it's already happened, but you're going to face those times. You're going to face decisions that feel absolutely impossible. And they're going to test you, whether you like it or not. But they're there to teach you something. So next time you feel as though the weight is on your shoulders because of a decision that you have to make, maybe consider that the doors you think are being shut are not being shut. They're just being rerouted. You're being shown a different way to get to where you need to go. A different path to the same destination. And it's true. It might not always work out. But when it doesn't, when you feel like you've lost, look around, because you might find an answer that you did not expect. That maybe what may have felt like or was a failure in one area, maybe it was something that would save you in a different area, or affect someone else in a different area. Choices can feel impossible sometimes, but sometimes we gotta look at them through a different angle. An angle that's just beyond us.